Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Travel Talk, a series by Trip 101 where we talk to different travelers and local experts of different areas from across the world. And I love exploring different cultures, going to different places, and just generally talking to different people and getting new perspectives as a traveler. For today, we will be discussing a country that I personally, it's on my top 10 list to visit. It's a beautiful country and I think very underrated currently. And the country we'll be talking about is Wales. So today we are joined by Gemma and Nitish with us, and they'll be taking us through the beautiful landscape of the rugged Wales, and we'll get to know more about the historical city, different type of culture. So yeah, very excited. We'll be getting both best of both the worlds. We're getting more information from a local expert, sort of, and we'll also be getting more information from a traveler's perspective. So hello, guys.
Hi,
Hi.
thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is
Hi.
lovely.
Thank you for joining us on this Monday morning.
No, we love it.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's nice to talk about a topic that we're very excited about also.
And we're very passionate about it as well, isn't
Yeah.
it? Like, I mean, it's a lovely country. So, like you said,
Yeah, it is. Okay, if you could guys just quickly explain, just introduce yourself, where you're from, what you do for a living, stuff like that.
Sure. So my name's Gemma. I'm Welsh. I'm from Wales in the UK, and I'm a fashion stylist by career. But at the moment, I'm a full-time traveller with my husband, Nitish, and we're exploring as much of the world as we can.
yeah. And I'm Nitish. I'm from India, Rajasthan. Like Gemma said, we're traveling the world at the moment. We were both in full-time jobs, and we work in social media, and we work with brands, we work with hotels at the moment. So, like I said, we were in corporate jobs before, but we chose to choose travel as a full-time job. And yeah, we're doing that at the moment.
That sounds very tempting. Just travel, get to see the different countries traveling all across the world. So, how many countries have you guys traveled so far?
So if we're talking about from the moment we left to now, it's been almost 2 years full-time travel, and we slow travel, like we like to really see a country.
Right.
So we're coming up to 22 countries in the last 2 years because we try and do around a month a country approximately.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a little bit less, sometimes it's a little bit more, but on average it's about a month a country. And so we're on our 22nd country at the moment.
Just gives you enough time to kind of see enough in a country as well.
Yeah, and sometimes not. Like
Right.
sometimes you leave even after a month having not seen everything
Yeah.
that you want to, so it's back on your list again. But
Yeah,
22 unique countries, actually, I'll mention. We have repeated a couple, but 22 unique countries.
And
yeah.
India's one of them.
India's one of them.
I mean, that sounds so commendable.
well, well, it's definitely, I mean, we love it. I know it's not for everyone, but we love the full-time travel lifestyle at the moment, at least.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I mean, I'm getting more tempted to just go out and travel all these countries. Okay, so today we will be talking about Wales. Wonderful country, I've heard. And, I came across a lot of interesting tidbits about it when I was researching. And one of the most fascinating thing that I found very interesting was that apparently Wales has more sheep than people.
Yes.
Yes,
Is that correct?
absolutely true.
Yeah, actually, we also were looking at some facts and figures as well when we were there, and we also noticed this. And apparently, it has the most amount of castles per square meter, according to some stats online. But we noticed the sheep fact also, probably why it's our national animal.
Right. So, I mean, if I was a tourist just traveling the streets of Wales, would I find sheep there?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
Like the moment you step into Wales, you'll see sheep.
Yeah, like even on the main sort of as you go from, say, if you're traveling into Manchester and you're traveling up to Wales, there's grassland on either side of the highway as you enter Wales, and you'll see sheep on the way in.
That's lovely.
So almost
I've personally never seen a sheep before, so that would be one of the reasons why I'd go to Wales. So it's a silly reason, but
no, it's not. They're
I'd love
adorable.
to see.
I even had a pet sheep growing up. I'm not even joking.
Oh,
How I
wow.
thought every other child had like dogs and cats. I had a pet lamb for a pet at home. So, but no, you should. There's loads of like petting farms as well in Wales, so you can go meet lambs and sheep and see them properly. If you've not seen them before, you should.
Do you remember your pet lamb's name?
The pet's name, yeah. It was a black sheep, so we called her Jet, like Jet Black.
Oh, Okay. So you guys had a 1 month trip in Wales, right?
Yeah, we were in the UK for about 3 months, and because we went to England obviously as well, and then we went over to
Right.
Ireland. So roughly it was about 6 weeks in Wales, but it
Yeah.
wasn't in one consecutive 6 weeks. We did like 2 weeks, then back, and then 2 weeks again.
Yeah.
We were traveling in and out a little bit. We're about 6 weeks total, yeah.
So my another question is that if both of you guys, or individually, if you can tell me what you like most about Wales, I'm sure Gemma will have more fond memories compared to Nitish.
Go
But
first.
Well, you don't know where to start really, but I feel like there are many countries that can offer you nature, but I feel like the
yeah,
nature that you get out of Wales is absolutely stunning. Like you could look for miles and miles, all you would see is green grasslands, sheep, as you said, and it's just very calming, it's very beautiful, and I think personally that's my favorite part of Wales.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. It's
Yeah.
a beautiful country. In fact, like we've traveled a lot of Southeast Asia, and it's a standing joke between us now
Yeah.
that we get to these like really beautiful areas of Laos, Thailand, like the mountains and the countryside, that people travel all over to go to, that Thailand holiday to see this amazing countryside. And we'll stand there and we'll be like, actually, this looks like Wales. Like
Yeah.
it's a standing joke. We always say it's like Wales, but it really is. Like we've got some of the world's most beautiful countryside, I think, at least. And it's not like on a tourist destination list, strangely, because it's such a small place for everybody. But I mean, we had a jam-packed 6 weeks and we still haven't covered everything. There's so much to see and do, and the countryside, as Nitish said, is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
So if that's the kind of holiday you're looking for, to see a bit of nature and the colours of the country, then Wales is your go-to, definitely.
right. I mean, when you mentioned that it's a peaceful country, when I think of Wales, I think of like those really cottagecore type movies where you
Yeah.
go for Christmas and live in a cottage.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's absolutely right, to be honest.
Yeah, and we even did like something similar,
Yeah.
kind of to that also.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of like glamping, like countryside cottages. You make a log fire, you get food in, and have some food and drinks at home, and it's very much like those vibes, definitely.
perfect. Okay. So which cities did you visit while you were in Wales?
Okay, so we've covered most of North Wales. We didn't really do a lot of South Wales because it actually is, there's so much to do. So we went to my hometown, which is a little village called Llanfairpwllgwyngyll, and that's just outside of Abergele. So then we covered the coastal towns, because I wanted to show, the reason obviously for the trip was to show Nitish where I've grown up and where I come from, and also for me to see it again as a little bit of a tourist, because I've lived out of the UK for so many years and we've been traveling obviously most of Asia for the last 2 years as well. So we wanted to A, go home and see family, but B, I wanted to show Nitish where I went to school, where I did this, where we did that. So it was kind of like a tourist trip, but also a trip down memory lane as well. So for us, the places that we went to were, we started obviously in my home village, which was Llanfairpwllgwyngyll, Abergele, Colwyn Bay, Ross-on-Sea, Llandudno. We did a full sort of couple of days around Anglesey, which again is huge, and we didn't cover everything.
Yeah.
We went to Conway. We went up to Snowden, which we covered a few things around Snowden as well, like Aberystwyth, Beddgelert, Genyw, Glanconway. And then on our way back to England, we went through Llangollen, which has like a famous aqueduct. So we sort of tried to do our routes accordingly. So we saw as much as we could on the way in, and then obviously on the way out as well.
That's cool. Do you have anything to add to that, Nitish?
Yeah, it was like Gemma said. I feel like Gemma needed to say these names out because they're not easy to say as well. So I was like, I think my Indian accent just won't do justice to Wales.
Oh, that's not true. You're very good.
So I just needed her to do it. So, but yeah, no, absolutely. Like these cities were lovely, and often as a traveler, like I mean, I definitely went in as a traveler. Apart from being Gemma's husband, who is Welsh, but I feel like I went in as a traveler, and I felt like, how do you even plan seeing such a big part of the country, and where do you go around, what cities do you see, and having someone with like a bit more of a local knowledge really definitely helped. So
actually, I think that's a common thread from most of our travels, is that, I mean, in this case, I'm the local, but whenever we get to a country, we do try and either before speak to a local, or we speak to a local when we're there about where to go, what to eat, etc. Because local knowledge is key.
It's everything, isn't it?
Yeah, it's everything. Like, you can obviously go on these guide websites and get your excursion and get on a bus with a group, and you can see quite a lot of any country by just going online and doing a bit of searching. But if you speak to a local, there's a place that you might not see online.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the whole point of this, our travel talk series, is to connect, tourists with more knowledgeable and people who can help them travel the city better. Yeah. So you mentioned a large chunk of your trip was centered around Snowden.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell me a bit more about the city, like what the vibes was, what is it known for?
So, well, for me, Snowdon is a mountain that I've climbed regularly as a child growing up with my dad and family, my mum as well, and other family members. But it was a tradition. Me and my dad would climb Snowdon quite a bit. So it's somewhere that I definitely wanted to take Nitish to and to climb as well. There's various different routes up Snowdon. I went to the one that I know the best, which is called the Pig Track. And it's the shorter one, but more extreme. So it's a lot of like hiking.
It's definitely extreme.
Yeah, so like hiking up like boulders. It's like you need your hiking boots. Like it's not a walking trail, but there is a walking trail if you want to just sort of have a simpler route up to where you start to ascend the summit. But Snowdon is part of the three peaks of the UK, and it's our highest mountain in Wales, and it's a really beautiful climb. Like the views that you get on a really good weather day are unparalleled. Like they're really beautiful.
I mean, especially because when we were at the top, like you could see all the lakes and stuff as well, and it's absolutely stunning.
But actually, so when we were there, which was in the winter, the train wasn't running. And obviously, it isn't the best time of year to climb a mountain in the winter, but we were there for various different reasons. And also, we like winter and we like the cold. But there is, just not to isolate the non-hikers, there is actually a train that goes from the base of the mountain to the summit. So if you don't fancy a hike and a climb, you can in the right months, which I think is from January until September. So it's just in the extreme sort of winter weather conditions, like the snow and the rain, they don't run. But you can get a train in the summer and spring months up to the top.
Okay, so the best season would be summer.
Ideally. I mean,
it could be anything.
I don't know how to answer this one because the UK weather is, well, it's a jackpot.
Dicey, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's any time of the year. Summer is not really summer, spring is not really spring, but the ideal time is to go on a sunny day. We arrived in October and actually we had amazing cold but sunny days for like the first week that we were there, and that's not usual. So like an ideal time to go obviously definitely would be summer because you're more likely to get a sunny day, but you never know with the UK, unfortunately.
I mean, again, when I was researching, I found that it could rain anytime in Wales. So it's best to carry an umbrella.
Yes.
Waterproofs, hiking boots, umbrella.
Always. Yeah. I think they'll be your best friends over there.
Yeah.
Perfect. And how did you feel looking at all those things from a tourist perspective?
I thought it was very exciting because I'd only ever heard so much about, like I'd done my research about Wales even before I met Gemma. I knew about Wales and I really wanted to kind of see it. And I was into hiking before. But when I met Gemma, finding out that she was a hiker as well and she's done Snowden, that was like a different ballgame altogether. And for me,
I think you've seen a lot of photos as well.
I'd seen a lot of photos.
You weren't sure if it actually looked like that in person.
Exactly. But
it looks like a screensaver, right?
Yeah. And then meeting someone who's actually done it and I see her photos, like for me it was like a game changer. Like I absolutely wanted to do something like that, and very exciting altogether.
We've climbed a lot of mountains around the world, and a lot of the time you don't really get the view until the top.
Exactly.
And you don't really have the views from the moment you start, but with Snowdon you do. Like from the moment you park in the parking, you have the views from the moment you start that hike. So it's very beautiful.
Yeah, sounds lovely. Sounds like a perfect picnic spot as well.
Yes, actually. And like from now a local guide perspective, like the ideal route I would say would be, we came in from Betws side, which has a famous train station. And I took Nitish to the little cafe on the train station where we could just grab a bite to eat. But it's like a really local Welsh cafe. You can hear people speaking Welsh in there. It's quite authentic. And you had a Welsh rarebit, didn't you? Which is like our version of like a really nice cheese on toast. So there's like some sauces and cheese inside a toasted, which is really nice. Which was like fuel for us to then go up Snowdon. But on the way from Betws, there's a little area where there's a waterfall called Swallow Falls. So you sort of pass by that area, And then again, on the way to Snowdon, there's a few other viewpoints like the Ugly House, which is apparently the ugly house because it's supposed to look bad, but it's the cutest thing.
I mean, a lot of people think it looks ugly, but we personally didn't think it looked ugly. I mean, again, as an outsider, I came and I went like, wow, that house is quite unique, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's just made out of
it's reverse psychology.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, apparently it's got historical reasons for being called an ugly house, but you can go in and have a coffee. It's like a little trail that you can sort of really rev yourself up to go in to do Snowdon and sort of get refreshments along the way. But definitely, obviously, still pack yourself a picnic for the top. But then, yes, like once you get to Snowdon, you park up. You can choose your routes, you know, whether you want the train, whether you want the lake view, which is just a trail, or if you want to actually climb. And there's a few different climbing routes as well. And then when you get to the top, incredible views. By the time you get back down again, obviously you're a little bit tired. Maybe you want to go and have a drink somewhere, relax. Yeah. We went on to a place called Bedd Gelert, which I personally love this story because, again, I did this a few times as a child. We went for barbecues to the riverside there in Bedd Gelert as a child. But there's a historical story about the Prince of Wales and his dog. And the dog was protecting his child from something that was happening. But there was a miscommunication and the prince thought that the dog was attacking the child until afterwards he killed the dog, and unfortunately afterwards he realized the dog was protecting the child. So there's now like a shrine for the dog, and the village is named after the dog, and you go and you do the walk of where the grave of the dog is and you learn all about the story of the prince, and it's very cute. It's like fairy tale.
But if I remember correctly, like you said, Gelert was the name of the dog, and Bedd is the dog. Bedd means dog.
The village.
Oh, village.
So the village of the dog.
Right.
So yes, that was our little trail to sort of Bedd Gelert afterwards. And then obviously, if you've got enough time in the day, I think Snowdon, for an average person, would be at least 2 hours to go.
Easily,
go up. And then maybe an hour and a half down. But if you wanted to take your time and see all these little places around as well, then you can easily make a couple of days out of just that part of around Snowdon. We went on to do a zip line.
Yeah, that sounds lovely.
Yeah, which is why I think like one of our first sort of tips if you're traveling Wales is that you're probably going to need your own transportation.
Flexibility, isn't it?
And not only, does it give you great flexibility, but also you don't want to be sort of relying on public transport timings. We're not in a city, like we're still in villages. Like it's still great, and we have great public transport and whatnot, but a car will take you to these little villages that are close by to Snowdon. Right. Whereas, the train or the bus might only take you to Better Secoid, and then you've got to figure out how you're going to get from one village to the next. And
taxis don't come by that easy as such. So if you're relying on public transport, like buses for that matter, I noticed the buses only happen a few times a day, isn't it? So
and along the coastline mainly. To villages definitely, but it's not reliable. So I think you need your own car to properly see Wales.
Yeah.
And do you need any international passport or anything to book your own car, to drive in Wales?
Well, it depends from country to country.
Yeah.
It depends. Mm-hmm. So if you have an Indian driving license or any other driving license, usually it's preferred to have an international driving license, or you rent a car just to be safe, because rules keep changing as well. Sometimes a certain license might not be accepted in the UK and wouldn't allow you to drive, which might hinder your trip. So you wouldn't want to risk that. We never take that risk. Like we always have an international driving license just to make sure when we go to a country, if we want to hire a car, we have that option.
Obviously, in this scenario, I've got a UK driving license, so that wasn't our problem this time.
Yeah.
But for people coming and traveling to Wales, definitely make sure with the rental car company, like what licenses they take, and if not, convert it to an international driving license before arrival.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's a great tip. And this is something most people don't really think of before they go into the city, or in any country. But this is a great tip. So thanks for that. So what else can you do around Snowdon? What are the other things you can explore?
There's various hiking trails that you can really spend your time. There's another place called Crib Goch, and it's very, very high, very difficult. If you're like a really avid hiker and you sort of want to do that area, you can spend the full day around the Snowdonia mountain range. Like, it's huge. Snowdon is just one of many peaks and valleys around the area. So you can, if you're a hiker, you could spend days there, sort of doing different routes and going to different villages. The ones that we just mentioned, so Betws Bedgellet and Swallow Falls, are probably the main attractions around Snowdon, which would be the one that you would see definitely before leaving the area. But then also, not to sound like there's not much else to do, there is definitely lots to do, but I wouldn't spend all my time there because there's so much else in Wales to see. Like
North
Wales alone. Yeah. Like, we went to Anglesey and we spent a couple of days around just seeing Anglesey, and that's the tip of Wales on the map, the part that looks like the lady's head map. So you kind of just go over. Yeah. So you go over on a bridge, you can drive straight over, and that in itself.
Yeah, it's like a different world at times, isn't it? Like, it's completely different to North Wales, and you can feel the difference as you drive into that little island.
I think it's a beach.
It's a pretty big island, isn't it?
Yeah. But you get that like beach vibe immediately because there's some beautiful beaches there, like stunning, and cliffs.
Beautiful lighthouses, cliffs.
And beaches. The famous railway station. So we went to the longest railway station in the world. I don't know if you've heard of or seen it online on your like research about Wales, but it's the longest Welsh word, and it's the longest train station in the world. So you go So you go and stand underneath this massive train station sign at the train station itself, but it's functional. The train station is functional, but that's Anglesey as well. So there's so much to do, even just outside of the Snowdonia range, that you absolutely have to dedicate a couple of days to Snowdon and the surrounding villages before you go off and see anything else, I think.
I think give or take, like, if I was going as a tourist and I had like a limited amount of time, I would say about a week and a half, 2 weeks would be perfect for seeing North Wales alone.
Yeah.
Would you say? Because you get about 2 or 3 days in Snowdonia, which is all the places that we mentioned, and then you can see the other parts of North Wales over the next, 1 day at a time. So you're moving around as well, and you kind of change landscapes rather quickly. So it's very beautiful, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I even think you probably need more, to be honest. Like Nitish obviously saw a lot, and we did a lot together, but I know there's even more that we didn't cover. So like, if you're going to try and see, you get a long holiday stint and you want to try and see it, then even a month like would be great between traveling from place to place, seeing it properly.
Right, that was actually my next question. My next question was to Nitish, like, for a traveler, how would you plan a trip? Like, if they had a 1 week trip, how would you plan it? And then I'll take Gemma's expert opinion on that and see if we can add or delete something to the list.
As a traveler, if I had to plan a trip for 1 week, I mean, I'd ideally start with, like we mentioned, I feel like I'd try and find some local person to find out what the offbeat route was a little bit. Like, because often when you try and search for something online, you get like the most visited places or the most touristy places, which is great. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, there are often things that you definitely should see in a country, which is nice. But often, like, you don't want to miss out on those small things that do make a country. Like, you get to see the real culture, you get to meet the real people, you get to try the real food as well sometimes. And the moment you dial down the touristy bit in a country, I think that's what I personally as a tourist am after. Like, I want to dial down the touristiness and like really see a bit more.
Right. Travel the lesser roads.
Yes. If we can call it that for sure. Like, I mean, I want to see a bit more in a country than just what the internet has to offer. So, but yeah, that's how I go around.
In a week, what would you see in a week if you had like, just as a tourist? Now you've seen it as well. Like, what would you say if they had like 1 week?
Definitely Snowden for a couple of days. I'd do Llandudno for a day, because that would then take you to the pier and it would take you to the Orme, and the Orme is absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
I'd do Conway with the castle. Yeah, Conway Castle was beautiful. The food was lovely. The mussels, the cockles, the small roads around the city were very nice as well. I'd do at least 2 days in Anglesey as well, because the beaches, the lighthouses, again, it had a lot to offer.
I think that's a week. That would be a week, wouldn't it?
That's a week, yeah.
Yeah.
It's very easy to kind of lose track of days when you're planning, because
that's why you need more time than a week.
You try and fit in so much more into your trip than you can actually physically do. And I think that's where the difficulty comes in, you know.
Okay, anything you'd like to add or delete to this list, Gemma?
Yeah, so for me, if I had to say to someone that was coming in for a week to North Wales and they wanted to sort of see the best of it, I would say, first of all, where we stayed is a great tip because it was so central to everything. So we stayed at this glamping pod called Plas on Isa glamping pod, and it was just outside of Abergele. And it's like a little wooden hut that's got the most spectacular views for a start out of your front window. But it's like a great hub to sort of go like 30 minutes in any direction to see everything.
Yeah.
So it's about 30 minutes to the base of Snowdon, covering all those places that we mentioned just before. You can go to Colwyn Bay, Ross-on-Sea. So for me, if I was saying to someone for a week's itinerary, you've kind of got two options really. If you want that really sort of hiking, outdoorsy week, then do Snowdon, Anglesey maybe, and go like the hiking trails.
Yeah.
But if you don't want the hiking aspect and you just want to see some beautiful castles, the coastline, a bit of the mountains, then again, stay in this Plas on Isa glamping pod. Very affordable as well, especially for the facilities. And you would maybe go down the coastal road. So there's a town called Ross-on-Sea, which has the smallest church. It's a tiny little church with just seats in it. It's very cute. And then just up from that is Penrhyn Bay, which when we were there, it was season for the seals.
Yeah.
So they're the rarest seals in the world, and they come to the North Wales coastline, and we got to see them at a distance. You can't go too close, but there's a little walking trail, not hiking, like just a normal walking trail to the coastline where you can view the seals and they're just playing in the water. It's so beautiful. And then I'd go on from there to Llandudno, like you said. See Llandudno, which is a main coastal town that has an orme. You can get some fish and chips, some local famous fish and chips, and have on the pier. And then maybe to finish up, go to Conway to see the famous Conway Castle. Yeah. And there's some really good like Welsh delicacies there. So bara brith, which is like a fruit spread that you can get in the cafe. And then maybe I'm vegetarian, but I made sure that Nitish had some good local food. So you got to try some like cockles and mussels, seafood on the harbour by Conway Castle.
As fresh as it gets, basically.
And all of those places that I mentioned are sort of like within spitting distance from one another from this place that we stayed in close to Abergele. And I would say, they would be my 2-week itineraries if you wanted to go hiking, like Snowdon and Beddgelert and Anglesey. And if not, the coastal town route, start in Abergele, same place to stay, and then go all the way to sort of Llandudno and Conway.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. It's a great itinerary. But personally, I'm more interested in, if I was a tourist, more interested in knowing about, the culture, the local history, because I know Wales is some of the best history in the world.
Yeah.
And in my initial research, I also know that it has lots of castles. So how would you plan a trip around, knowing the history and all the castles, or as much of the castles as you possibly can in Wales?
Well, actually, that's a good question because there's so many castles. I think you would have to choose like a few that you wanted to see, and so
fairly selective, no?
Like there's one there's Bodlewyddan Castle that on the way into North Wales that's there, and it's beautiful. It's got like a cafe as well. You can go and sit and you can see the grounds. Conway Castle, like I mentioned just earlier, the Conway Castle is a beautiful one because it has, the drawbridges, and it's very Game of Thrones. Like you can see like evil setting happening there, and actually it has like great historical references to the invasion with the English. There's all this Welsh-English rivalry to date because we were obviously invaded by the English, but it sort of tells you, Conway Castle also gives you a bit of an insight into Welsh culture and the fact that we have our own language. We don't speak English as a first language, it's a second language, even though everyone you meet in Wales will be able to speak English to you more often than not. But Conway Castle, but then for example, Gwych Castle, which is close to the accommodation actually that I just mentioned, it hosted a famous television show called I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. And it's a television show that's very famous in the UK, but it's actually the place where all the celebrities were there for a few months. So lots of people want to visit that now because it was a beautiful castle they chose, and it's accessible for visitors as well. So I think maybe pick a few sort of big ones that have got some historical references, because if you just wander around, there's a small fort or castle in every village. So you could be there for ages, looking at all the castles.
Probably forever.
Okay, so which city would you recommend staying in if someone wanted to see the best of Wales?
If you have transport and if
Uh-huh.
you are, if you have your own means to sort of go anywhere at any time, again, I'd say Abergele was like the main central hub.
Almost. Yeah.
You can go all the way to Prestatyn and Rhyl, and then all on the other side, Llandudno and Conway, within 30, 40 minutes in any direction. It's kind of like the center, which is where we stayed because we did have our own transport.
Yeah.
If you don't have your own transport and say you've arrived in to Manchester Airport and you want to go to North Wales and you want to sort of see everything on a local bus or whatever, then maybe Llandudno.
Llandudno might be the most.
Yeah, it's probably the easiest to get to on a train, to travel around, and you've got lots of things to see, like if you just want to be on foot.
Okay, perfect. Coming back to transportation, like if someone doesn't want to drive and they just want to see, the center of the city and all, is a bus or train, which of these is more accessible or more logical to use?
A train would get you. So odds are, when you're going to Wales, you'd probably land into Manchester or Liverpool for that matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's usually a train that goes directly into North Wales from there. So to go between larger distances, you take the train, and then to go between places within North Wales, you would try and take the bus.
Yeah.
I think the bus would be the most economical as well.
The train actually though takes you along every single coastal town, but it doesn't take you inland. So that would be I would do the train coastally. So from Llandudno, you would go Holwyn Bay, Abergele, Rhyl, all the way to Prestatyn on the train, no problem. And that on the map you'll see is like all the coastal towns. But if you wanted to go into villages and to see the mountainside, you would need a bus. There's no trains there.
Right, that's perfect. So you guys stayed in a different accommodation, yes?
Well, we stayed with a lot of family, obviously, because I'm local and Nitish was meeting family. But on a couple of occasions, we got an Airbnb and we stayed in this accommodation that we just mentioned earlier, just to like have a in between, like a couple of days to ourselves between seeing family. These were the couple of accommodations we booked.
That's great. So generally, in Wales, would you recommend staying more in Airbnb or in a hotel?
I think a bit of both is fine. Really, it depends. It really comes down to what you want as a traveler. Some travelers want the benefit of being in a hotel where you can walk downstairs, there's a breakfast for you, and there's a restaurant or a bar. Some people want to do things themselves and have an Airbnb with a kitchen.
Yeah.
So it really depends how you like, or what sort of comfort level you're looking at as well.
Yeah. So there's more of a bed and breakfast culture in Wales, at least, like not the UK, Wales definitely is more of a bed and breakfast culture, but that is still your hotel kind of vibe, it is a breakfast buffet in the morning and, you've got a hotel room kind of scene. We personally like, wherever we go in the world, we like staying with locals and try and do the bed and breakfast or the homestay routes because we get to learn a bit about the language, find out a bit about the food, find out the best place to go and how to get there from a local. So that's always our like strategies to stay with a local if we can. So if we were to give like tips, I think Airbnb is a great option because you can also stay in like close to locals in residential areas, and bed and breakfasts like B&Bs where you probably get like a proper Welsh breakfast in the morning and you'll speak to an authentic Welsh person.
And they're dotted all around the country, isn't it? Like, I mean, bed and breakfast clearly state like there's a massive board outside, and they're usually next to a pub.
Yeah.
So
often there's a pub very in close proximity. But like, for example, this Airbnb / homestay place we stayed just outside of Abergele, it's like a glamping hut. It's run by a Welsh couple and they will gladly give you like, if go and ask them like where's best to go and what's around the area and how long will it take to get to Snowden, and they'll gladly give you like local tips. And we got some great sort of advice from them as well about like where to go and how best to go there. And like I said, I mean, even if you just wanted to stay on site, accommodation like had brilliant views. It's incredible.
Right. Yeah, that's what I know. Wales has a lot of bed and breakfast culture. Sorry. So yeah, I mean, feels very cottagecore again, as I mentioned before.
Yeah, it's the best way to see it, really. Like, There is some like proper hotels in the bigger towns like Llandudno, for example. And then on the way to England, there's Chester that's on the border. It's kind of not Wales, it's not England, like it's in the middle.
Yeah.
They're your sort of two biggest sort of towns, cities around Wales. You'll get proper hotels there, like the chain hotels, but the bed and breakfast route is your best bet.
Okay, so that was great about the accommodation. The next question I would like to ask you guys is, are these accommodations, kid friendly? Because I know a lot of people travel with their kids to Wales. So is it, a place where, children could have fun, can enjoy in general?
So actually, well, the accommodation that we were in, I'm not sure if it's children friendly because, to be honest with you, it's a small glamping hut and it's not like a family size anyway. Like it's couples.
The two people.
Two people, yeah. But also, we travel as a couple, and I think as a preference, travel couple rather than family. So our particular accommodation, I'm not sure if it's children friendly. That I'm not sure of, but Wales in general is very
family friendly.
Yeah, very much.
Right,
So.
and even pet friendly, would you say?
Yes.
Yes.
Which is the best bit for us. Like we'd go into cafes and it says a lot of the time it's pet friendly, but there'd be like a dog at our table or there might be some cats outside, which we love animals. So it was like the best part for us seeing the animals everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, pet friendly destinations are perfect. I used to have a dog, so I mean, I really would look for places where I could take him with me.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's important, definitely. And like I said, a lot of even just like food establishments and pubs, you see a lot of locals sat there with their dog at the table. And
in fact, so much so that these pubs and restaurants often offer snacks and stuff for the dogs. So you can go up to the kitchen and buy something for your pet.
Yeah.
Like crisps or snacks or whatever it is.
Yeah, and obviously dog water bowls and things like that. Yeah, it's cute.
Okay, perfect. Let's come on to. Can you tell me a bit more about the food that you were able to try in Wales, Nitish?
My favorite thing out of Wales was the dinners. So they tend to do like a lot of, what do you call them? Sunday dinners.
Yeah, roast dinners.
Roast dinners, right? So the roast dinners where they've got a lot of roasted vegetables, different kinds of potatoes done a few different ways, a piece of meat and gravy and stuff. So for me, that was very different to the kind of food I normally eat and have grown up eating. So for me, it was very different and I thought it was quite nice. It was very tasty. It was very authentic to that part of the world. There was the Welsh rarebit, which was lovely, which is basically, like Gemma said,
cheese on toast.
Cheese on toast, almost.
Kind of, but better.
But better because it's Welsh. What else?
That sounds yummy.
Brief was basically like a fruit toast, but again done slightly differently. I have no idea how it's done differently, but it tastes different to a regular fruit toast.
Yeah, actually, the Welsh baking is quite nice. Like we have like a version of like a scone, which is a Welsh cake, so it's a flatter scone.
Okay.
Had those as well.
Yes.
Welsh cakes. You toast them, put some butter on. Yeah. Very nice.
Very yummy.
The fruit bread also is amazing.
Yeah.
But you had actually, I think I think you're missing the breakfast because. Nitish got like sausage and bacon and eggs, and like it's a very sort of traditional breakfast to have like a sausage sandwich in the morning or whatnot with a cup of tea or coffee. So I think you enjoyed the breakfast scene as well, didn't you?
Yes, 100%. Like I mean, it's just that like when you're having all that food, you often tend to forget what else you've had because it's all good food at the end of the day, isn't it? So
yes.
But yeah, like I don't remember the names personally because the names are a little harder to pronounce as well.
Yeah,
so
the cakes.
That's why I have a personal Welsh person to say it for me.
But interestingly, Nitish got to try more of the Welsh cuisine and the local food than I did because I'm vegetarian, so I can't. It's quite meat heavy. Apart from the rarebit, which, like I said, is a cheese on toast variation. Yeah. It is quite meat heavy. So I was able to have like the roast dinners that Nitish was having, but without the meat and whatnot, just like the selection of vegetables with the gravy, which is great. But Nitish got like the full authentic experience as a non-vegetarian. Could eat anything.
Okay, Gemma, you mentioned that you're a vegetarian. So what are some of is it conducive for, vegetarian to travel to Wales, and will they get like proper food? Will they get to try more diverse dishes?
Yeah, I think good on our behalf that we can sort of make most of the dishes veggie. For example, like I said, Nitish would have a full chicken roast dinner and I would have the same but with no chicken. And you can do that, you can opt for a vegetarian option. In any of the local pubs or cafes, there's always like a vegetarian lasagna or just like our local vegetable is a leek. It's actually our national vegetable. So you'd often find a lot of really good homemade soups in the cafes. We had a lot of soup, actually, if you remember.
Leek and onion soup, isn't it?
Yep, leek and potato soup. Lots of like seasonal vegetable soups and stews. And I would say, obviously, the cake culture is very big. Like tea and cake, coffee and cake. Like you'd have a tea and cake with your neighbor. So that's, it's a local village like neighbor thing to do. So there's lots of like tea rooms where you can go as a vegetarian and have lots of nice cake. Well, so I don't think I didn't struggle. There's not obviously like the massive variation if you're comparing the likes of India or Thailand, for example. There's not like a massive flavor selection, but you wouldn't struggle to find vegetarian food. No.
But the same, you'd say the same for vegan culture as well, like, and gluten-free options.
Yeah, actually, I really would have to mention at this stage how absolutely incredible the UK supermarkets are. Very. Even if you wanted to Airbnb and self-cater at home, if you've got very specific dietary requirements, the UK supermarkets have an aisle for everything. I had a great time. I had a great time shopping in UK supermarkets because I don't see that around the world very much. As a vegetarian, I was eating actually probably more vegan than I was vegetarian in the UK because there's so many good options. But aside from like cooking yourself and not going to a supermarket, I think it's very normal to ask for a vegan option in local cafes, and it might not be a huge variety. It's not a traditional, obviously, cuisine, a vegan option. But I've got friends, family members in Wales that obviously are vegan and they can eat no problem all year round.
Okay, that's great. I'm vegetarian as well, so it sounds perfect that the Welsh is so accommodating. My next question.
I feel like that those are all boxes ticked for you. Right? For your next trip to
Wales. I feel like this is just like my personal checklist. I'm just answering questions based on that. So my next question would be regarding water. Like, how safe is it to drink local water, or do you have to carry a bottle with you?
Oh no,
you can drink right out of the tap. It's probably the freshest water you'll have.
Really
and it's
nice.
Cold as well, so you don't even have to put it in the fridge.
Yeah. It's cold, fresh water out of the tap. It's amazing. And nice. I have a lot of family in the UK based in Manchester in England, and I noticed the difference between the tap water. Like, it's phenomenal in Wales.
They pride themselves over the water.
Actually, Welsh water is a thing. So you don't need bottled water. You can drink tap water from any establishment and from your own Airbnb kitchen also.
That feels like another box checked.
Just carry a refillable bottle with you.
Yes. Okay, I'll come on to like another great topics that most tourists look for in places, and that's shopping. We all like to get souvenirs for our family back home. So does Welsh have, or the places that you visited have a good shopping culture?
Huge.
Very.
I mean, if it's only about souvenirs, you would literally find them everywhere. Like, and the Welsh, from what I could see as an outsider, pride themselves on their country. So you'd see a lot of Welsh-related souvenirs, like very specific ones with the red dragon, for that matter, would be more or less everywhere. There's the Welsh spoons. Love spoons, call them.
The love spoon.
Love spoons. That's a very famous souvenir to have from Wales.
Yeah. And also, actually, a lot of the souvenirs are handmade. Like, you don't rarely see that sort of generic magnets, keyring. A lot of them are handmade. So there's lots of like wooden souvenirs, slate from the Welsh slate. So they're the
Welsh slate, quite famous as well.
Yeah. So I think the souvenir shopping culture, I think, is quite nice because usually on our travels we see the same magnet, keyring, tea bags or something. But when we went, we were picking some things up for your family as well, and we were looking to take some like authentic things back, and you really can get some like proper handmade authentic souvenirs.
You can get spoiled for choice if you want to.
But there's also like clothes shopping. There's a lot of knitting in Wales, so there's a lot of like clothes making culture. So there's like a cooking culture for sure. Hiking shops in these villages where you can get some really good like hiking boots, jackets if you want to sort of stock up on outdoor gear. And then in the likes of Llandudno, you've got a regular mall that's got like the mainstream shops.
Okay. Is there any particular spot you can think of where you'll find everything someone would want for shopping? Or there's no particular spot like that?
No. You can shop in multiple of these towns and villages, but Llandudno has probably everything in one place.
Like you can't go wrong. If you wanted to shop and you didn't know where to go, you couldn't go wrong.
Actually.
Well, Prestatyn.
So two bigger towns on either side of the coastal line, Prestatyn and Llandudno. Both of them have like, big supermarkets, a mall with regular mainstream shops, plus souvenir shops, individual Welsh authentic shops as well. A bit of everything all in one town.
Like drawing close to the interview, but okay. Would you recommend going to, like, would you be willing to go there once again? I mean, I know you said that you'd want to, but for someone who cannot go again, like, what are the places, the best places that they have to visit?
Okay, yeah. If you only had one trip. Gosh, how long is that one trip, though? That's the question.
No,
that's up to you.
Oh, right, fine. Okay. I would say probably the itinerary we mentioned before. Like, I feel like I took Nitish to these places because they were like a must-see until the next time we might go back to Wales. And actually, the next time we go back to Wales, I personally would like to see the South because
South Wales,
family-wise, like we're based up north, but South Wales has really good culture as well, a slightly different language, which is really interesting. And we've got the rugby stadium. So as a child, I would go and watch the rugby there with my dad. And I would like to take Nitish So next time we might not be traveling around North Wales. In fact, we'd probably go down south and see like the south of Wales. So if you've got one trip to go to North Wales, I would say Llangollen is very nice.
Beautiful.
Snowden and the surrounding villages, definitely. If you can sort of knock off the coastal towns, they're all very cute. So like Llandudno, you could probably miss Colwyn Bay, but Ross-on-Sea with the seals and the smallish church, very nice. Conway for sure. And then if you want that sort of like shopping and also a bit of touristy stuff, Llandudno, definitely.
That's right.
If you've got a bit more time, Anglesey. Anglesey is awesome.
And my next question is accommodation, accessibility based question. Sorry, Wi-Fi. Like, I know a lot of tourists look for places where Wi-Fi is prevalent all across the place. So how is in Welsh?
Well, okay, I think I'll take up on that answer, to be honest, because I was the tourist there. I think the one advice I would give absolutely every tourist is have a SIM of your own and subscribe to a data package ASAP, because you don't find Wi-Fi in many venues you go to. Like if you went into a bar or a pub or a restaurant or you don't find public Wi-Fis to use. So you would have to rely on your own. And sometimes Airbnb Wi-Fi's can be a bit dodgy as well, or you go to some places where you just won't be happy with what you're getting. So having your own internet is absolutely key.
And also, we're talking about the outback sort of countryside as a terrain. So your signal is never going to be brilliant. So it just be better all around, especially, Google Maps, like just to get from place to place if you're driving yourself like we were. It's just best to have like a local SIM card. It's fairly cheap. Get a month's package. You can buy them from the local supermarket. Like you can walk into Tesco, for example, and get like a small tourist SIM for a month. You top it up by £20 or something, or, 10, 20, 50, something like that. And you can have a package that suits your requirement. Like if you just need it for WhatsApp, you would obviously get a smaller one. But if you're going to go offbeat, like we're recommending, and see these little villages and the tourist trails, you're not going to find a great deal of Wi-Fi spots. Like there's not like co-working spaces and things like that. So definitely your Airbnb will probably have Wi-Fi, like ours did, but you're not going to get it everywhere. So have your own local SIM, like Nitish said, definitely.
I mean, that's what I was thinking, because there are a lot of off-beaten paths, as you guys said. So connectivity might be an issue, right?
Yeah, the villages have less signal. Like it's a proper village. It's not like a village in India where there's still like a full infrastructure. Like it's like a village where it's just mountains around and probably not that much signal.
Yeah, especially with, like you said, like having the mountains around you and not having a lot of signal. Sometimes the data can be a bit of a problem as well. So another advice I would definitely give to other travelers is downloading offline maps on Google. So on Google Maps, if you can download an offline map for a certain area that you definitely are going to be seeing, then you don't need data to actually use it as maps, which works out really well. So even if you don't have data, you know where you're going. So
we do that for most countries we go to. Download the offline map first, just in case we lose signal or connection. And Wales would definitely be one of those places you'd want a downloaded offline map. Sure.
Perfect. I mean, that's a great tip. Again, another thing people don't really think about, but then
Yeah.
you wouldn't want to get lost in a completely strange place. So
No.
yeah, perfect tip. Thank you for that. Another question I wanted to ask was, what about the people there? I mean, are they friendly to tourists? Do they help out?
You know,
Nitish could probably answer this one. He's
following
an
from your
unbiased.
following from your previous conversation, you said you wouldn't want to be lost or be stranded in an unknown location. To which I was actually going to say,
Right.
but if you were stranded, there would be a Welsh person there ready to help you out. Like they're very friendly. Like I've come from a place where I've not seen people casually saying hello to you, but they would like walk past you and be like, "Oh, hi, good morning," and I'm just like, "What do you want?" Like, so they're very sweet people, very helpful, very out there, just ready to offer their help if you need it. Otherwise, they just want to have a chat with you, so it's quite nice.
I mean, I would obviously agree, but I'm glad that he said that.
Yeah.
Of course. Right. So, would you also say Wales a safe place to travel for, solo female trip?
Oh yeah, like
Yeah.
the thing you've got to realize about just the UK in general is that it's as safe as anywhere. Like you've still got to be street smart.
Yeah.
It's not completely so safe that you can leave your phone on the table and walk out and expect it to be there when you come back. It's not quite like that. But is Wales safe for travelers and solo travelers? Absolutely. Yeah, I would say that it's not. You're not going into a very big city like Manchester or London where there's more likely
Big crime.
there's more incidents to probably happen in those scenarios.
Yeah.
It's a place like anywhere, so you've just got to be safe and street smart. Probably not walk around with valuables in the middle of the night on your own. Just like normal stuff that you would think about wherever you. But do you have to be sort of on guard wherever you go? No, I wouldn't say you would. No, and I don't think that's being biased as a local. Like,
No,
just be sort of logical about where you're going and at what time of day you're going.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay, that sounds great. Okay. Another question I want to ask is, this is more, I think, a fun question. At least it's fun to me. But if you were to plan your trip again, what are the things you'd change?
Oh, well, you
I mean,
can answer
now
that.
that you have more perspective, so
What would I change?
I think I know what I'm going to say for this.
Go on. I feel like you planned the entire trip for me because it was my first time to Wales. So I had my wife doing everything for me, which was amazing. But I feel like it was perfect. Like, it wouldn't change really anything. Would you?
The only thing I'll say is that whilst we went in the winter and we love the cold weather, we love the winter months, we went for those Christmassy feels and to be around family, and you get all of those things by going in the winter. But going in the winter, which I completely forgot, reduces your daytime by at least 3 hours. So by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it was dark. And I don't know if for a one-off trip or like the only time you're going to go, whether you should go in the winter months because it was dark. Like we had so many more things to see and do, but it was dark and there's like, well, there's no point. We're not going to see it. So we'll head to a pub, we'll have dinner and, we'll go home for the day at 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon. Whereas if you go in the summer, you expand your day by another 6 hours and you can probably see a ton more than we got to see.
Yeah.
But, it was multiples of reasons why we wanted to go in the winter. And I wouldn't change that. But if it was a one-off trip that I had to show you Wales for like one time, would I go back and change the time of year?
Maybe the summer, because then this would go down at 10, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's about 9 or 10 o'clock at night where it goes dark in the summer. And it was non-exaggeration now, about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It was pitch black. And you get a bit thrown off. It's like it's the middle of the day, but you feel like you're going to go to sleep. Like you're already tired and you're in bed by 5 o'clock. Like obviously not, but it felt like that most days leading up to the Christmas time. So yeah, that would probably be the only thing for me.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. I mean, that kind of sounds like a great Christmas vacation, to be honest.
It was lovely. No, it really was.
It was
beautiful.
From obviously a personal perspective, we got to obviously be around family in that occasion time. Like around the world, everyone wants to be sort of around their family in a big occasion, whether it's Diwali, or Christmas for me. So it was nice to sort of, people had time off work around that time. You got to see people that you haven't seen in so long. However, like obviously we didn't get the best of the weather, definitely. But we had, for us, like we had a wonderful trip. I got to see a bit of Wales as a tourist local rather than just a local that lived there.
And I kind of got to put to perspective of what Gemma would always speak about, right? Like, so she's always told me about, oh,
Right.
by the way, this is what my home looks like, or this is what the village looks like. But then I get to see it in person, and
All the
that
things
kind,
you see online.
oh, you can see it online, but I mean, seeing it in person is the best thing in the world, isn't it?
The things that you saw online, like
Yeah,
before, like you got to see them in person.
yeah.
For example, you know, I was trying to teach Nitish the longest train station word, and we were looking at it online for so long, and then all of a sudden we're there, and it's, you know, there's boards
there.
everywhere, and
it's absolutely impossible to even pronounce. It's bizarre.
Yeah, I can't even imagine it.
Yeah, you definitely have to go to that train station. That's another thing. Like, it's a one-off for sure.
Yeah, you should.
In terms of though, like actually just on that note, like in terms of just a little tip, which I think also we follow in different countries as well. If you can learn a couple of Welsh words, you're not going to need, it's not going to be a communication problem to speak English. Like everyone will speak English there, but a Welsh person would appreciate someone saying thank you or hello, or even if it's cheers with a beer in the pub, you know, if you learned like a couple of Welsh words along your trip, then I think that would probably get you a bit further with some local recommendations, and they would definitely appreciate that for sure.
You'd have even more friendlier.
Yeah. Probably a free beer in the pub.
Can you teach us a few words, Gemma?
Yes, sure. So I think you would probably definitely need to know thank you, which is diolch.
Okay.
So it's diolch, diolch.
Diolch.
And cheers, if you have a drink and you're cheersing with someone, is iechyd
Yep. And I think welcome, maybe. Welcome's another one.
Welcome, like, well, I mean, they're probably going to say that to you rather than you say it to them. But if you say thank you, they would say back to you croeso, which is welcome. But also to welcome you is croeso also. Yeah. But maybe, yeah, like, to be honest with you, I think our rule of thumb is that we try and learn hello, which is hello, but also samai. Samai is in Welsh. We try and learn hello, thank you, cheers, and maybe numbers, actually, in case you need to say, like, I want 2 of these things. Like, numbers usually help. But honestly, you're not going to need, it's not that in Wales they don't speak English, they do. It's just that those couple of words here and there will probably make them think you're making an effort. So it'd be nice.
That's perfect. I'll try to remember these words, but I'll probably have to look online. Okay. So I had a question for you, Nitish, and it's like, how was your overall experience? If you just had to describe that briefly, then how would you say?
I think my overall experience for the time that we went, personally, like especially with having like the really cold weather, so I feel like it was a bit more magical, like especially Christmas around the corner, having to climb a mountain that I've always thought about I would climb. So for me, it was an experience that I can't actually really put to words, but it was really magical for me. Like I loved everything that
if you had to number it from 1 to 10.
Oh, wow.
You have to just rate it.
Well, I would rate my trip a solid 8, I think. I would rate it 8.
And what would it make it 10 out of 10?
I think now, the thing is, I honestly, like, if you asked me this question about 15 minutes ago, I would have said a 10. But now that Gemma has mentioned that the day did end a bit early,
the weather
impact a little bit.
Over time, I've obviously forgotten what it felt like. But now that I remember it, I do know that I felt like I wish there was a bit more time during the day. So yes, I feel like having a bit more time during the day would definitely end.
And I have a question for you, Gemma, is that you mentioned that you hadn't visited your hometown, your home country for quite some time. So what are the changes you saw in that place, and how did that make you feel?
I was actually really nicely surprised. I've obviously gone back to visit family, but I've never spent a huge chunk of time, like a month or even 3 months, like for us, back in Wales since I left for university all those years ago. So I was really nicely surprised about the sustainability aspect, about how there's initiatives for wildlife, environmentally. It's modernized, like, yes, it's countryside, but it's modernized itself and sort of grown. It can obviously do better, definitely, like most of the UK can, but I was just nicely surprised that it had modernized itself since I have lived there as a child. A lot more locals are leaving to work in cities, but obviously still remaining at home. So I think there's more ideas being brought back to Wales. They're keeping the heritage, like restoration is quite a lot in different villages. So you still have that historical tourist aspect that you can go and you can learn about the country, but it hasn't been flattened by lots of glass buildings been put in its place either. So modernized in a good way. And obviously with the sustainability environment aspect specifically, which I just think is quite nice because, you know, we do sort of like gravitate towards more environmentally sustainable stays, and you know, we love animals. We rather do something that protects the environment than ruins it. And you know, knowing now that how popular Snowden is to hike, specifically with like the Three Peaks initiative and whatnot, I thought maybe it would become too touristy and maybe like Snowden wasn't as beautiful anymore. Maybe they'd flattened it with a path or something, but it's not. It's still as beautiful as I remember it to be. So it's modernized in all the good ways and a big sort of environmental step as well.
That sounds lovely. I mean, just seeing the place that you kind of like seeing a familiar friend's face, a different perspective. So I'm glad for you.
Yeah.
Okay, my next question is that I know throughout the interview, throughout the our talk, you have been sharing lots of tips. But if you just specifically had to share just top 3 tips, what would those be?
Top 3. Is that combined or each?
Okay, you can combine it.
Combined. Okay. Top 3. I would say, I'll start by saying pack your outdoorsy gear.
Yeah.
Even if you don't plan on doing a hike, you probably will need your waterproofs, your hiking boots, and an umbrella, like we said before, like outdoorsy gear for sure.
I think top tip for me would be to definitely get a SIM and download offline maps. Like I feel like that was definitely a lifesaver.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah. And then I think I would say maybe like plan the route that you want to do because we had like a list as long as my arm of things that we wanted to do and we didn't really get, but you can get lost like going to that village, seeing that castle, going there, eating that food. Like maybe if you've got short on time, like really plan your route because there's more to do there than you think.
Plus, I feel like as a traveler going to Wales, what you need to remember is it is still countryside, so the roads do take time to get from point A to point B. These are like single carriage roads, right? So you could take time. So if you're not planning your trip properly, you could take 40 minutes to get to one side, but then you've spent the rest of the day trying to get to the other side, and it was useless.
So when we say plan your route as well, not only the places you're going, but inclusive of that is how you're getting there. Like, are you hiring a car or are you doing it with public transport? Because that will ultimately affect your itinerary. Also.
Right. Those are a great set of tips. I think we have covered everything, but if you do guys think of anything else that you want to share with our travelers?
I think we've covered it. The only other thing I would say is that if you're going to travel and you hadn't thought about taking any kind of photography things with you, there's so many beautiful spots. Like get yourself either a good camera or carry an action camera or something because you would really have a lot to photograph like while you're there as well on your trip. So lots of wildlife that you probably weren't expecting as well. Like there's a lot of animals and wildlife. So maybe if you're interested in the photography side, like make sure you carry a good camera.
Okay, I just thought of something. What about medical infrastructure? Like if a tourist, they fall sick, then can they easily get any medicine from anywhere, or would they require prescription?
Prescription in the UK it's required, but I think your travel insurance would cover things like that. So the travel insurance that you would need as a tourist to go to the UK anyway. There's big hospitals in the main cities. So like in North Wales, there's a big hospital in Bodelwyddan, which is near the castle that we mentioned earlier. So there's hospitals and smaller clinics and pharmacies dotted around everywhere. But like in other countries, you can't go and buy over the counter. No. So your travel insurance would need to be sort of, good and up to date to be able to sort of go in and buy whatever you might need. Okay,
perfect. I think with that we have covered everything, just everything for this 1 hour that we had on Wales. There's so much more to talk about, and if we just keep going back and forth, this is never going to end.
No, I know. But, that's how
I just wanted to, I just wanted to thank you guys for spending your morning with us and giving us so much perspective.
No, thank you so much.
And
it's been a lovely chat actually. I'm glad we got to speak a bit more about Wales as well. So we're very happy about that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I personally feel very patriotic to the topic, but hopefully, and in the next few years, it will become a bit more of a tourist checklist point as well. So hopefully, this will help someone that might be traveling there.
I'm sure it will help. I mean, it has inspired me to just go to Wales right now if I could. But I'm sure that a lot of people watching this would feel the same because Wales has so much to offer, as you've said already. So I'm sure that it will not become an underrated gem anymore. And I just wanted to say thank you for just showing Wales through your perspective. And I hope you get to travel more and share more stories with us.
Thank you
very
so much.
Ashley.
Yes,
We look forward to it.
Yeah, we do. And I really hope you have a
Okay.
great trip to Wales when you go.
Yes, hopefully soon. Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having us.
Bye.
Yep.